Hello you lovely lot and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and today we're gonna unbox and create with the July 2022 UpCrate! Now I feel like I've been waiting absolutely ages for this to arrive. I know there's either about to be or there already has been another pay increase with the promise of faster delivery, but it just seems to be getting later and later for me at the moment. Obviously, it would be naive of me to think, oh well, why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening, but obviously with things going on in the world right now, soaring temperatures, train strikes, all that wonderful stuff, it's why it's been a little bit late, so I do apologise. Anyway, little rant aside, let's talk about what is inside. We have a rather colourful print by Alinem Art, and that is this month's co-captain, as well as some fabulous stickers. And of course, we're already at the stage where you can see what's going on. It's a gouache box with a random tube of acrylic paint. We have two tubes by Lefranc Bourgeois. Probably saying that wrong, but we have two colours there by those. We have a tube of white by Amsterdam, and the acrylic paint we have is a Liquitex. We also have a Lucas paintbrush, which is a flat brush in a size 2, as well as a plastic mixing palette. Oh, and let's not forget the surface. We have 3 sheets of Art Space watercolour paper, which I actually quite like. The colours we have are cyan, which is in Lefranc gouache. We also have a burnt sienna. The Amsterdam is white and the Liquitex acrylic is in a light blue. And swatching all of these out, they are actually quite lovely paints to do that with. Even the acrylics, which I'm not a fan with, but I do feel that it was put together well adding that in there. It wasn't like a really glossy acrylic or anything, and they do mix together quite nicely. However, I do have issues with this box. Now don't get me wrong, I like a challenge, I'm up to a challenge, but I thought this box was, well, I feel like they'd done me dirty a little bit. Now, if we look on page 37 of the booklet, all you guys who've got them, obviously they are quite aware of the colours that they've sent out, and obviously I had the cyan and burnt sienna, but it says, rather than having a light blue acrylic, it should be diazine purple. I never know how to say it, but you know the one I'm on about. And it gives some examples of how those colours would work together. However, I got light blue, and you'll see me where I lifted the tubes up, and the pigment from the cyan and the pigments from the Amsterdam white are pretty much exactly the same ones that are used in the Liquitex acrylic paint, and I just feel a little bit robbed there because I could actually just mix that colour and I could have actually been given the purple. I don't know, I just feel like it was a really restricting box and I couldn't really enjoy it because the materials were just too similar. The burnt sienna was really the only different colour out of the selection, and when I look at the other options available, yeah, it just doesn't seem right, especially because I got that light blue which has the same pigments as the cyan. However, I'm not going to complain too much because overall I did actually find it all a very nice painting experience. And personally, I don't use acrylics very often, so that tube I'm using now will just be put with the others until I decide to do an acrylic painting, which is always very far away on the horizon. And speaking of horizons, I'm kind of painting one now on screen. The prompt this month is Nature is Art, which left it quite difficult for me to interpret with just such a restrictive colour combination. I did find that mixing the cyan with the burnt sienna did create quite a nice, deep, contrasting colour, almost likening a Payne's grey, but obviously not quite. And that allowed me to create a nice silhouette type thing on the gradiated background I'd created there. And in all fairness, actually, I could have blended it for longer if I had a slightly better brush. However, it was actually really nice to blend and create that gradient. And yeah, I can't grumble about the materials themselves. I did find it a little bit hard to add twiggy branches. I do find when you just have one type as a specific type of brush as well, I do actually find it quite difficult to create different textures and line work on there. Because you're working on such a small surface, there's just not a huge amount of room for error there. However, I did persevere, and I actually do quite like how this picture came out. I guess if anything, having this wonderful array of mismatched items there, at least it encouraged me to paint this picture, which I don't think turned out too bad. To create a reflection effect, I did find that actually dry brushing over the top of a layer of wet paint that I'd put down did kind of give a nice impression of ripples of water there, as well as, you know, emphasising the shadow. I also took that same approach to adding highlights on the waves there, as well as just adding a horizon line in there. I also thought, well, let's just put some blossom on this tree. I mean, it's not really very often you see trees sprouting out of water, but to be honest, I just didn't know what else I could do. I must admit though, the white gouache is lovely and opaque. It didn't really require a lot of coats, and as well, it was really good for mixing into the other colours I got there. I do wish though that the brush might have just been perhaps a round one. Even if it had been a larger round one, it perhaps just would have given me more scope to create mark making. And I am sorry, I do feel like I'm being like quite negative on here, and I am and I'm not. I think I'm being quite fair when I point out that there are prints in the box, and some people can achieve an effect or a style like that because they will have those materials, and then some people are not going to be able to, and they're going to think, oh, I'm no good at using this medium, especially if it's their first time using it. I think looking through the magazine and looking at the colours I should have had and what have been represented and colour schemes I could create with those and not have them in the box, again, it's like you've been set up for failure here. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a palette because I'm lazy and I don't clean them, so when I get a brand new one, that just means I don't have to clean the others for a while. But then again, it means I've got more to clean when I do get around to it. But personally, I would have happily swapped that palette out and had another tube of paint, if you see what I mean there. I could just use an old plate if I didn't have one. I could even use the cardboard box that it came in. And I do feel bad talking about this because I actually do really enjoy UpCrate, and I love their diverse selection of materials, and to a certain extent it's getting me in the right mindset where I'm combining different mediums as well, rather than perhaps just using them as an aftertouch. I am mixing acrylic with gouache, and I never do that. But then it goes back to perhaps just not having the right set of colours in there. Again, considering I could just mix my own with what was provided, it just seems a pointless addition in there, and a bit of a waste really. But I do still think it is good value for money just for the supplies you get, even if they're not what you want. Anyway, I'll try not to rant about this anymore. You can't win every time with a mystery box, and that is the idea, is they are a mystery. Anyway, mysteries aside, what's going on the screen right now? Well, I thought it would be quite a nice addition to the nature thing to paint mushrooms. Off camera, it's been a bit of a thing that I'm enjoying painting at the moment, so I thought let's just have some weird glowing mushrooms, because that blue actually really does stand out quite nicely, and I mean the acrylic blue. It is lovely and opaque, and obviously it's a heavy-bodied acrylic, so I guess that's what that's about. And it was quite nice lightening it with the Amsterdam gouache as I was going along. The background again is a combination of the cyan and the burnt sienna paint that I've got in there. It just created a dark enough background for everything else in the foreground to stand out. Of course, the golden rule here is to make sure every single layer is dry before applying the next one, which is what I did here. And I did go over a couple of them 1 or 2 times just to make sure it was at least opaque enough for my liking. I actually quite liked as well how, I guess, glowing it all looked. Like I say, that white was pretty good. I did end up giving some areas of it a second coat, but it stood out enough from the background and from the midground, we'll say. Just so at least all of those little mushrooms in there, you could identify them apart from one another. At this point though, I'm more or less just playing around here. I mean, we only got 3 sheets of paper this month, so there's only so much you can do with what you've got there. But to round things up, I appreciated the supplies, and I am actually sort of having a bit of a gouache journey at the moment, which this can just contribute towards. However, I think in a lot of areas they've missed the mark. I do hope the next boxes start to improve. I tend to find with UpCrate you get some really good ones, and then it kind of tails off a bit, and then you get some excellent ones and then good ones, and it just sort of rotates around. So I am hoping next month, hopefully I won't be having a little moan about what was inside. Of course, you guys, let me know what you think. Did you receive this box, and did you receive the same colours as me? Did you find it a bit of an obstacle? Did you feel a little bit daunted by not really having that colour variety that everyone else seemed to have? Or did you love it and you were like, no, the more blues the better? And just let me know down below. Now, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it's been a little bit on the negative side, but I do feel like I'm quite constructive and objective when it comes to looking at these materials that I've paid for. But I want to say thank you for watching. I do hope you found it useful. There should be some more videos on screen right now, and I'll see you lovely lot next time. Bye!